Good evening, everyone. Today is Monday, July 27th, 2026, and the time now is 6 p.m., and I will call to order the regular meeting of Town of Mead Board of Trustees. In accordance with the town's remote participation and remote meeting policy adopted by the Board of Trustees on March 13th, 2023, by resolution number 21-R-2023, remote participation will be allowed. The meeting link has been provided on the town's website and designated posting place 24 hours prior to this meeting. I'd like to remind everyone present, both in person and virtually, of the town's general guidelines for public comment at open meetings and public hearings. The guidelines are available online and on the entry table. There are two public comment opportunities on the agenda for persons in attendance at Town Hall to address the board. The first one is limited to items on the agenda. The second public comment opportunity allows any subject, whether it is on the agenda or not, to be addressed. If you have comments regarding the public hearings, comments will be taken during that item. Melissa, roll call, please.
Mayor Whitlow.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris.
Here.
Trustee Adams.
Here.
Trustee Cartwright.
Here.
Trustee Crane.
Here.
Trustee Hagan.
Here.
Trustee Schranz.
Here.
Mayor Whitlow, today is Monday, July 27th, 2026, and you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Please join me in a moment of silence for loved ones lost. Thank you very much for your time. Please join me in staying in the Pledge of Allegiance. Liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much for your time. Next is review and approve agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the agenda as is?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as is.
Second. Thank you. Roll call, please, Melissa.
Trustee Schranz.
Yes.
Trustee Adams.
Yes.
Trustee Hagan.
Yes.
Trustee Cartwright.
Yes.
Trustee Crane.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much. We have an agenda for this evening's meeting. Next is our staff report by our town manager. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Trustees. You have my report. I do have a couple of items I just wanted to punctuate. First of all, we are going to be canceling the board meeting on August 8th. There's a competing event. Our Big Sky School is opening that night. There's going to be a grand opening. All the board should have been invited to that. It's like a 2-hour long thing, and then they're going to have a drone show that hopefully they have the drone show if there's not too high of a wind. Oh, I'm sorry. I wrote that down wrong. Okay. Thank you. Also, just to remember that August 4th, we're going to have two things going on. We have National Night Out, which is a huge celebration out here that we celebrate every year. And then at 4:00, there'll be the candidate pickup night. So anybody interested in running for mayor or trustee, it'll be over at the community center, not here at Town Hall, but there'll be like an information session. And actually, our clerk, Melissa, will be talking about it in one of our information updates, just so you're aware of that. We got an email from the county because we wanted to know the new ballot box that we put in, how many ballots were put in there. So we got 1,080 ballots, and the typical one of those ballot boxes gets about 2,700, but we just got it. So that was pretty good. I mean, I was kind of excited to know how many people used it. So just information for you to consider. And then finally, I would like Lorelei to come up just for a minute to discuss the new email addresses, that just so people understand what's going on and why, and if you're having any issue getting into the server.
Thank you. So it is official. The town of Mead has transitioned its website from townofmead.org to meadco.gov. And that includes all of town email addresses as well. Nothing changes from the public's end. All townofmead.org email addresses will still go to who they were meant to. Anybody that has a link to the website townofmead.org will be redirected to the .gov site. So that's working well. The only difference is when you get an email to the townofmead.org email address, when you reply back, you might notice it is changed to meadco.gov. So the .gov registry is part of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. And so only legitimate verified governmental agencies are allowed to have that. So it shows public trust that when they see that .gov, it's legitimate, it's not spam, it's not a scammer pretending to be the town of Mead. Internally, staff will need to update usernames, logins. It's more of a back-end issue. We may receive questions on why we dropped the town of. And part of that is the .gov registry requires a state identifier. So in that circumstance, it would have needed to be townofmead.co.gov or townofmead.colorado.gov. And internal discussions, we felt that was really long, 12 to 18 letters to type out. So we shortened it and went to meadco.gov. Why now? This is something that internally we've talked about since 2024. And what we ran into is certain federal systems and law enforcement registrations require a .gov domain for website and email access. So that's why we made that change to help the police department and to ensure that the public can trust that the information that they're receiving from the town is .gov. It's legitimate. We're here. Any questions?
Any questions from trustees? All right, thanks, Lorelei. Helen? Anything else? Okay, any questions for Helen tonight?
Yeah.
Trustee Schranz.
Helen, I noticed on your report under community development, we have the town issue some RFPs for our strategic planning thing. And it seems that you've received 14 responses. And now the town is getting to negotiate with the low bidder. Can you tell us who that is or how the choices were made?
Todd, do you want to address that? Is it okay to say it? I mean, we haven't.
I think you can talk about like what you looked at in the proposals, but since it's not official.
Yeah. So we can't identify the low bidder at this time, but we can talk about the criteria. Todd, if
Yeah.
you want to talk about that.
Happy to. So the criteria is based off of what was included in the RFP, basically qualifications, experience in Colorado, ability to network with brokers, realtors, property owners, and then just an overall productive understanding of what retail development looks like in the town of Mead and in our corridor. And so we got 14 responses ranging from a little bit above 8,500 all the way up to 90,000. A lot of those that were in the higher range included additional scopes of work, which weren't supposed to be in this part of the RFP.
Right.
It's just going to be a smaller analysis to start off with. So based off of that, we had several qualified firms that provided responses to the town. And then ultimately, the one who hit it on the head was the lowest bidder by a significant amount.
Okay. So how did you make your choice of the responses? What did you have some sort of criteria that you and your people used to decide of these 14 who we're going to do, or do you just look at low bid?
Yeah, we worked with Haley and created a matrix that showed each of those location, experience, ability, consistency of the scope with the RFP,
Okay.
and then as well as cost. So,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
When will we get to know who that is, and after you're done with your negotiations? So will it come before the board to?
It won't because it's within my, the purchasing policy, which is under $50,000. So I will just execute the contract once we come to terms.
Okay. All right, that's it. Thanks.
Any other questions for Helen?
This brought up a question. The matrix that's being used, can we see that without names?
Typically, the matrices and the grading is available to the public, so yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, all right, thanks for your time. All right, we will move on to informational items tonight. The first one is our November 3rd, 2026 coordinated election, and I'll ask our town clerk, Melissa Peters Garcia, to start the discussion. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and trustees. As you know, we have an election coming up on November 3rd. Does this work? Okay. What's on the ballot? We have the mayor seat and 4 trustee seats up for the election. Who administers it? We are coordinating with the Weld County Elections Department to conduct our election. How to vote? This is a mail ballot election, and all registered voters will receive a ballot. So back to what's on the ballot. The positions up for election include Mayor Whitlow and Trustees Adams, Cartwright, Harris, and Schranz. Trustees Adams and Harris are term limited. The mayor's seat is a 4-year term. The 3 highest vote getters for trustee will have 4-year terms. The 4th highest vote getter will get a 2-year term as they will be filling a vacancy. Voter initiatives and town ballot questions are due to the county by September 4th. There are currently no initiatives or ballot questions at this time. We are unaware of any of what the county and state are putting on the ballot at this time, but hopefully we'll find out soon. Oops. Went too far. Okay. The candidate informational meeting will be held on August 4th at 4 p.m. And we're going to hold that in the multipurpose room at the community center. And I encourage any potential candidate to come and see that presentation and get more information on the town and the election itself. This meeting will cover information on the town board, the board of trustees, what the board is responsible for, and time commitment. It will also have information on running for office, campaigning, and the Fair Campaign Practices Act filings. There we go. Okay. In your packet, you will see the Weld County Election Intergovernmental Agreement as ordinance number 1112 for your approval tonight. This agreement allows the town to coordinate the election with Weld County, and the county will process the ballots from print to final count. Coordinating with the county saves the town money and ensures efficient and accurate processing of ballots. We now have our own ballot box located near the Mead Community Center at 401 3rd Street. Eligibility is easy. You have to be a U.S. citizen, 18 years old, and live within the town limits for 22 days before the election. You can register to vote via online with a valid Colorado ID, in person at a voter services and polling center, or through the Weld County Elections website. Registering to vote online or by mail must be done at least 8 days prior to the election. Otherwise, you may not get a ballot. You can also register to vote in person through the day of election at the VSPCs. voter services polling places. You can update your address on your registration at any time. Candidate packets will be available on August 4th. And again, I encourage each potential candidate to attend the informational meeting that afternoon. Petitions are due back to the clerk's office by 4:30 on August 24th. And the Weld County election IGA is due back to the county on August 25th. And as I mentioned, the IGA is on the consent agenda for your approval tonight. September 4th is the due date for ballot content. That includes the candidate races, any initiatives, ballot questions, ballot issues. Ballots are mailed out on start being mailed out on October 9th. And the drop boxes are opened on October 9th also. In-person voting starts on October 19th at the voter services and polling centers. October 26th is the registration deadline if you register by mail or online. Same-day registration is available through the day of election. November 3rd is election day. Ballots are due by 7 p.m. and postmarks don't count. So drop them in the ballot boxes, drop them off at the VSPC centers, and vote often, as they say in Ohio. Key contacts would be the Weld County Elections Department, their office, their mailing address, their phone number, and their hours. And we have online and town resources. Register at govotecolorado.gov. The drop box is over by the Mead Community Center, as I said before. And the town of Mead contacts would be the town clerk, myself, or you can go to our website, which I have as townofmead.org. So you'll be redirected. Any questions?
Questions for Melissa? So for the record, will you tell the folks in the public that there's no drop box here in the town? Just there's nobody brings their ballots here. They have to either drop off.
Oh, yeah, not.
There's not here.
Town hall.
Right.
The county drop.
Right. I just want to make everybody aware that
Yes.
there's no drop box here in the town hall, but it's over there. Because some people will come here instead of going over there.
Yes.
So, okay. So
And they
it's
do
for the
come here.
record.
Redirect them. For the record.
Yep.
No drop box at the
Right.
town.
Mayor, could I ask a question?
Yeah.
Of Melissa? I've been asked this before, and sometimes people come in here. If somebody makes a mistake on their ballot, where can they go to address that?
They're gonna have to go to a voter services and polling center.
Which is, what does that mean? Like the county or,
Yeah, one of the county voting centers.
okay, where there's people there?
Nearest one is at Southwest Weld County offices.
Okay.
Okay. And then you just bring in the ballot that you messed up and they'll trade you out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If you've messed up your ballot, you can get a new one. And your first ballot will be destroyed.
Okay, because we've had people come in here and ask questions,
Yeah.
and like Mayor said, we don't have a drop box here, but we also can't, I mean, I'd like to know how to answer that question.
Yeah. I agree.
Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we'll move on to our second quarter 2026 financials and invite our Administrative Services Director, Mary Strutt, to the podium. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Hello, thank you, Mayor, Board of Trustees. I'm going to talk a little bit right now about the second quarter financials, which are in your board packet. They start on page 37 in your board packet, but I've done a couple of snippets from it to show you when we go through the financials. First of all, this is our financial year at a glance. We're just finished up the second quarter. So in the second quarter of the year, we'd finish up the prior year audit and we review the current calendar year, which is what we've done. The prior year audit was presented to you at your last board meeting. And now we're going to move on to third quarter. So our third quarter plans are to continue to review the calendar year, project our year-end balances, and then start budgeting for 2027. So these are our 2026 budget assumptions. I'd like to just give you a quick update on those and where we're at. We expected slightly increased revenues, and we actually saw slightly increased revenues. We've had a minimal increase in sales tax. Property tax is spot on because we get those assessments from Weld County before we budget. Residential housing still shows slowing. We've had some staffing to do at the community center this year, and we've seen increased costs of doing business. Now, this is directly out of the financial statements, and I kind of like to show you what's in the financial statements in your packet so that you kind of know how to look at it if you want. I always highlight in your financial packets for you the major revenues and the total revenues and the total expenditures. So I did cut and paste to get you both expenditures and revenues on the same page. That highlighted box of revenues is actually on page 5 of the financial statements, and the expenditures are on page 18. But you can compare them right there. And I just wanted to compare that orange box for you. So the orange box shows you total fund revenue year to date at $5.9 million, with our budget being 11.4. So we were halfway through the year at July 30th. That's 50% of the year. And we're at 51.7% of our revenues for the year. So we're pretty right on target for our revenues for the year. Our expenditures, then this is general fund. I'll talk about the impact funds later, but general fund, 4.7 million expenditures out of the general fund year to date through June, and out of an $11.4 million budget. So that's at about 41% halfway through the year. So looks like we're doing pretty well in the general fund halfway through the year. Okay. Your next page is just I'm going to dive a little bit into the revenues and then a little bit into the expenditures. So this comes from page 4 of your financial statements. And again, every month when we put the financial statements in the board packet, we do highlight some of our larger revenue sources. Those here are the under taxes: property tax, sales tax, and building permit use tax. Again, you'll see in the financial statements, you're given 2 years worth of actuals, 24 actuals, 25 actuals, and then the period actual. So what we actually did in June, what we actually received in June of 2026. And then I always just look at our year to date and our budget and our percent. Those are the numbers I'm most concerned about. If we go for property taxes, our budget, 2.5 million, we've collected 1.9 out of that, 75% of the property tax in. That's pretty normal. Most of your property tax does come in the beginning of the year. As we all know, you owe your taxes, you got to pay them in February, April, June. So the June payments haven't come in yet. They'll come in July. So we'll be pretty close, about 92% by the end of July on our property tax collections. Sales tax collections, again, the budget's almost 4.7 million. We've collected 2.1. So it's a little low, but not too bad, 46%, and we're 50% through the year. This does not include the 1% sales tax that goes to the street improvement fund that was approved for that. That's separate. It's not in the general fund. So there's another $2 million in sales tax going in there. And then building permit use tax, that's the one that's a little bit low. And we'll talk about building in just a second, but let me go through each of these. Property tax, our property tax rate here in Mead is 11.522 mils. And that's what equates to that $2.5 million estimated property tax revenue for the town of Mead. I kind of like to give you what does this mean to the individual resident of Mead? So I Googled and I said, what's the median sale price of a home in Mead? And it said $550,000 to $560,000. Taxes on a $550,000 home without a metro district is about $3,500. And the Mead allotment is $358 of that. You'll see the stuff off to the side. The majority of that $3588 property tax goes to the school district. A chunk goes to Mountain View Fire, some to Weld County, and us. Out of a $550,000 home, $358 comes to the town of Mead. If you're in a metro district, you're paying the metro district a portion of your property taxes too. So your property taxes are probably more like $5,200. But that same $358 on a median sale price of $550 comes to the town of Mead. Okay. And that's for, out of the taxes that we collect out of our general fund, that's for all the services that we provide, right? That's the parks, the community center, the police. If we had any snow, we'd plow it for you, stuff like that. Okay. Sales tax. I know this is a little small. It is in the packet. People can see it online later if they want to take a look at it. But this does give our sales tax distribution by month. I put it in there and I try to go back as far as I can to a year so you can compare last year to this year if you like. Property tax collection for June, which again, we collected June 30th. It was received by the town July, but June 30th taxes is generally taxes collected by the retailer in May. So if you went to, the grocery store in May, you paid them, or, Quick Trip or the restaurants in May, those would come to the town in June. So I have another chart that shows this a little better. I showed this in the first quarter review that I did. The orange is 2024, the yellow is 2025, and the green is 2026. So it's interesting that we were following that pattern of spikes and ebbs there, but we've really flattened out these last couple of months. So it'll be interesting to see. It hasn't necessarily been a downturn. It's just going right down the middle with our sales tax. So a few more months, we'll see what that trend looks like. And then this is residential building permits. I put this number in here to try to explain the building permit use tax, which is on there, which is a little low. And we've talked about these last couple of years that our building has kind of slowed. For the 2026 budget, we budgeted 91 new homes built in the town of Mead. In the second quarter of 2026, we've had 16 building permits issued for new homes. That gave us 32 through the end of June, 32 building permits issued. And as of last Friday, it's up to 41. So as of July 24th, 41 single family building permits issued. Now that's kind of low and we may not meet our 91 homes. That's really might affect our impact fees that we'll talk about in just a minute. So this is the expenditures out of the general fund. Again, it's a big chart, a lot on there. Tried to highlight the box in orange for you because this shows how every department has done so far on expenditures. So again, we're 50% through the year. There's not one department that's gone over budget yet because they would be 50% or higher. So each department seems to be doing pretty well year to date with their expenditures. And again, you've got the same columns there, 24, 25, 26. Actual budget that I talked, actual expenditures year to date that I mentioned earlier, 4.7 million out of the 11.4. Investments, you also have in your board packet today the second quarter investment report. So these numbers represent the investments that we have in the local government investment pools. We put it there because it earns a better interest rate and it is available. It's very liquid. We can pull money out of there pretty quickly to pay for any expenditures that we have. The board has been saving money, the board in the town for the last several years to pay for some of these projects. So we hold it here to try to earn interest while we're doing it. This quarter, the interest earnings totaled like $222,000 in interest in the second quarter. So that's pretty good. That helps us out to get that much interest. So we like to leave as much money there as we can. And especially because it's very liquid, I can move it over to the operating accounts within 48 hours if I need to. All right. I'm going to move off of the general fund and onto the special revenue funds. These I'm just pulling for your packet from your packet. They start on page 19 of the financial statements. And I've kind of keyed this where yellow is things that are under budget, green is on target, and red is over budget. Now, over budget in revenues is good. Where over budget in expenditures is not as good, but I still use the same codes. So the street improvement fund in revenues, we're a little over budget there, over what we had expected, but we're right on target with our expenditures. The conservation trust fund shows as under budget in the revenues. That's because they don't pay us quarterly, they pay us in 3 tranches. So the money will come in later in the year. And we haven't spent anything out of the conservation trust fund yet. It's not a lot of money that we spend out of that. Those are the lottery funds. This year it is earmarked for equipment at the parks, additional trash cans and benches and things like that. So we'll get those in before the end of the year. The sewer enterprise fund is one that we might need to be looking at as a little concerning. The revenues are definitely under budget, and that is definitely because of the building permits and the tap fees, right? So there's not impact funds going into the sewer enterprise fund, but there is tap fees that go into it. And if we don't get the tap fees going in, that's the money that needs to be used for capital improvements to the plant. So we do really need to be watching that fund. Lorraine had mentioned that in our in the audit presentation, that we were a little in the red on this fund, on the rates that we charge don't quite cover the expenditures. So to solve that, I mean, we might be looking at a rate study coming up to see how we can match and do better in that fund. As you know, that's an enterprise fund. The people who use the sewer fund, the rates that they pay have to cover the expenditures out it. We cannot supplement it with any other taxpayer money. Okay. The capital improvement fund, that's just set up for special projects and capital improvement. It's right on target at that 144,000. That's frankly, it's interest that it earned in the first 2 quarters of 2026. So it's right on target. Under budget and expenditures, just because some of the expenditures there are related to like I-25 and 34 improvements. And so those will come out later in the year. Okay. Next page. You'll see more yellow there on the impact funds. Under budget and the revenues, that's not great, right? And that is definitely a result of the building permits being low. So the expenditures are right on target, but the revenues are low in police, transportation, parks, and open space. The one red, the municipal facilities, the reason that's over budget is because we received a grant reimbursement from the community center project. So it really was 2025 expenditures, and it had been budgeted as a revenue in 2025, but it came in 2026. But as far as expenditures there, we're pretty right on target for those funds. All right, and then our next steps for 3rd quarter, as I mentioned at the beginning, we're going to continue to monitor the revenues and expenditures, and we're going to start preparing the budget 2027. We include the 2025 actuals. We use June, so that's why it's helpful for me to have these June financials to help project the year end for 2026 and then budget the 2027. But that's my presentation later on tonight, so if you want to hear about the budget, stick around. Any questions on the financials, though?
Questions for Mary? Trustee Hagan?
You talked a lot about the building permits being, not coming in at the level that we projected or budgeted.
Correct.
What percentage of the building permits does the town actually keep versus paying out to the inspectors or whatever the other costs that come out of that?
Sure. Well, on the first slide that I showed you, and I can go back to that. This one, I just have highlighted there the building permit use tax, right? That's the 3rd highlight there, building permit use tax. So building permit use tax comes directly to the town, and we don't split that with anybody, right? If you look on your financial statements, another thing that I highlight on your financial statements, I just didn't put it up here because the taxes is our biggest revenue source. It's actually 8.3 million out of 11.4. Building permit fees, the budget for building permit fees was $586,000 in 2026. And we keep 45% of that. 55% goes to Safe Built.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mary.
Sure.
Okay, we'll move on to proclamation. Tonight, we will, as Helen mentioned, our National Night Out will be on August 4th, 2026, and I've asked Trustee Schranz to read the proclamation.
Proclamation, National Night Out, August 4th, 2026. Whereas the National Association of Town Watch, NATW, sponsors a national community building campaign on Tuesday, August 4th, 2026, entitled National Night Out. And whereas National Night Out is celebrating over 40 years of community building that promotes strong police community partnerships and neighborhood camaraderie to make our neighborhoods safer, more caring places to live and work. And whereas the residents of Mead play a vital role in assisting the Mead Police Department through joint community building efforts, and whereas National Night Out campaign provides an opportunity for residents in Mead to join over 38 million neighbors across 17,000 communities from all 50 states, U.S. territories, and military bases worldwide. And whereas it is essential that all neighbors of Mead come together with the police and work together to build safer, more caring community. Now, therefore, Colleen Whitlow, Mayor of the town of Mead, does hereby proclaim August 4th, 2026 as National Night Out and urge our citizens to join us for this event. Given under her hand and seal, the town of Mead, Colorado, on this 27th day of July, 2026.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the signing of the proclamation?
I make a motion to approve the proclamation for National Night Out.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Hagan,
Yes.
Trustee Crane,
Yes.
Trustee Cartwright,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris,
Yes.
Trustee Schranz,
Yes.
Trustee Adams,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much. Motion carries. We'll move on to public comment. The board welcomes public comment at this time for any item on the agenda. We will also take comments on items not on the agenda during the second public comment, item number 11. Please remember that public comment is not intended to be a question and answer session. The board will listen to your comments and take them into consideration. All comments should be directed to the Board of Trustees and not to specific individuals. If you wish to speak during this first public comment period, please adhere to the town's general guidelines. Please start by stating your name and address for the record. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the Board of Trustees. If you are representing a group, you will have 5 minutes. We ask that all speakers and audience members treat one another with respect and dignity. Let's ensure that we maintain a welcoming environment and avoid any actions that could be distracting. Melissa, do we have anyone that signed up for this first public comment?
Yes, Brian Fessler.
And sir, would you please add?
Oh, sorry, that's for I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's
Thank you.
my mistake.
It's okay. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on an agenda item during this first public comment period? Okay, we'll move on. Thank you very much. We'll go on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda contains items which are considered routine and approved with one motion and vote. I would like to recognize staff by putting together these items for us tonight and the board for reviewing them ahead of tonight's meeting. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I will move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Melissa.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris,
Yes.
Trustee Adams,
Yes.
Trustee Crane,
Yes.
Trustee Schranz.
Yes.
Trustee Hagan,
Yes.
Trustee Cartwright,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much. The consent agenda has been approved. We'll move on to our public hearings. We have 2 of them tonight, and they're on town-owned property. The first one is the public hearing on Valdez annexation and zoning. And I will open the public hearing. The time now is 6:39, and I will turn the podium over to our town planner, Lauren Rice. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor and Trustees. One of the 2 establishments of zoning being presented at public hearing tonight pertains to the Valdez annexation property. And I would just like to point out that there is a typo on the agenda, as there's no annexation being considered for the Valdez property tonight. The subject property is town-owned and therefore the applicant. The town of Mead acquired this property on January 14th, 2026. Previously within the agricultural district through unincorporated Weld County, the town of Mead seeks to establish public facility zoning after annexation had been approved by the board on June 8th, 2026. The property at hand is approximately 1.472 acres with an abandoned manufactured home and shed. Although the property was used for residential purposes in the past, it remains largely vacant to this day. The property is planned to assist the Highway 66 and County Road 7 pedestrian crossing project, which includes an underpass at the intersection with a trail connection to the Liberty Ranch subdivision. As seen, the Valdez annexation property is located at the southwest corner of State Highway 66 and Weld County Road 7. The property is designated by the town's comprehensive plan as being appropriate for mixed-use residential and commercial. Mixed-use residential and commercial is defined by the comprehensive plan as a mix of large lot, single-family, multifamily, senior housing, and supported by small pockets of neighborhood-serving commercial uses. It's intended to allow for flexibility in uses, thus supporting the landowner's desire to maintain control over the future of their property while furthering community goals outlined during the public planning process. The zoning of surrounding properties is as follows. The property to the north is within town boundaries and zoned for general commercial use, consisting of the approved Mead Place PUD. General commercial zoning is found on the southern portion of the Mead Place PUD. The property to the east is within town boundaries and zoned for highway commercial, consisting of the Ariets Grove approved PUD. RMF 18 and RSF 4 are planned for the northwest portion of that Ariets Grove PUD. The property to the south is within town boundaries and zoned for general commercial use, as well as RSF 4 within the Liberty Ranch subdivision. The property to the west is State Highway 66 right-of-way. The town as the applicant looks to establish public facility zoning for the subject property. The Public Facilities Zone District was approved on March 30th, 2026, and as a little bit of a refresher, the zone district itself allows accommodation for quasi-governmental and community-serving uses on property owned by the town. So the proposed initial zoning is subject to review against the criteria within Section 16.3.160E of the Land Use Code. The full list can be found in your packets, and staff finds that the establishment of zoning for the Valdez annexation property meets criterion numbers 2 and 4. Staff find that the proposed initial zoning is generally consistent with the 2018 comprehensive plan in that the property provides land for a community-related use that was not anticipated at the time the comprehensive plan was adopted. In addition, the proposed initial zoning pertains to thoughtful community planning, facilities and services, which is a vision statement outlined in the comprehensive plan. For these reasons, staff recommends that the Board of Trustees approve ordinance number 1113 with the suggested motion in your packets. And I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding the initial zoning of the Valdez annexation property.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Now, this is an opportunity for the public to comment during this public hearing. When you're recognized, please state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to address the board, and we ask that you please adhere to the town's general guidelines. Are there any comments from the public on this public hearing? Seeing none, any of the trustees have any comments or questions for Lauren? Trustee Trent?
Might be a silly question, but what's the difference between general commercial and highway commercial? Besides the G and the H.
Spelled a little bit differently. Highway commercial is going to have not only what's included in the general commercial, but more intense uses that would be typical around interchanges or major highways or thoroughfares. So whereas general commercial is going to be a subset of that, and then more locally like neighborhood scale would also be included in that.
I don't know that that helps me.
Yeah, I don't have the matrix of uses, so I can tell you which is within
'Cause
which
I-
district. It's just that highway commercial is a more intense commercial district than general commercial.
Yeah, because as I looked at Lauren's drawings, east of 66, north, or east of 7, north of 66 was highway commercial. West of 7, north of 66 is general. I mean, they're just across the street from each other. And I don't know, I'm interested more in what does that do to our retail opportunities in the future? Is it going to limit me to what I can put on one side of the street or not? Should everything along 66 be rated as highway commercial? Those are all questions. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it, because the general commercial, I'm not sure I know what that buys anybody,
Yeah. For
but it
today,
is limiting.
yeah. We understand, and I'm sure staff can come back and give an overview of zoning, but today we're just looking at the public facilities zoning of this Valdez parcel for the purposes of this public hearing.
Okay.
Trustee Hagan.
All right, perfect setup. Why is it public facilities instead of highway commercial? Is it just because of the underpass? That's going to be
It's public property and it's basically going to be carved up for the underpass. So we wanted to annex it into the town because any remnant pieces of it we might want to use for signage, but it's just going to be used for a public facility. So the idea is to zone any properties that we have more towards this public use zoning that we created exactly for this type of parcel. It's not going to be used for commercial purposes.
well, that's what my point was going to be. It's kind of creates a wedge, a separation from the highway and that potential future commercial along it. So why wouldn't the town consider maybe selling a part of it off to whoever develops the parcel immediately south and then
developable with
Yeah.
with that huge pad that's
but it could be like access point, it could be their signage, it could be there could be a lot of uses that they would want for that immediately adjacent. If I owned the property to the south, I'd be looking for that, I guess.
Yeah.
Access to the parcels to the south don't depend on the zone district. So if there was an interest and the transportation plan showed that it's appropriate to have some access through this parcel, the public facilities would allow that.
And private signage or something like that too. We could allow that. Private signage?
No, but I don't think they would need it. It's a pretty narrow sliver, and it's more contiguous to right of way or more consistent with right of way than it is a fee simple property for development.
It's a really challenging piece of property. It was originally sold off by CDOT when they widened 66, like the best we could tell back in the 60s. So they sold it like for nothing. And then somebody did a small house on it and then it just continued to escalate in value. But it's a really challenging piece of property, but we need it to connect our trail. So that's the reason why we got it. And the only reason we're zoning it that way is just to make it more uniform. It's almost like a bookkeeping exercise.
I
Because
suppose it's not too hard for us to change the zoning if we wanted to
Yeah,
allow somebody to use
that's
it
true.
too, since we own it and
Yeah.
we can vote on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? All right, I will now close. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Todd. Close the public hearing at 6:48. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 1113, an ordinance of the town of Mead, Colorado, approving a zoning designation of public facilities for town-owned property known as the Valdez annexation?
I will move to approve ordinance number 1113, an ordinance of the town of Mead, Colorado, approving a zoning designation of public facilities for town-owned property known as the Valdez annexation.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Schranz.
Yes.
Trustee Crane.
Yes.
Trustee Cartwright.
Yes.
Trustee Hagan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris.
Yes.
Trustee Adams.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes, thank you very much. Ordinance number 1113 is passed. Move on to our second public hearing, and this is for the Greater Shed property on Weld County Road 32. While the board is only required to conduct a public hearing regarding the zoning, the board will permit public comment on the agenda item number 10B below during the notice public hearing regarding the annexation and zoning for the subject property. Following the conclusion of the consolidated public comment period public hearing, the Board of Trustees will take action on items 10B below. I will now open the public hearing at 6:50, and I will turn the podium over to our town planner, Lauren Rice.
Once again, good evening, Mayor and trustees. The other application being presented for public hearing tonight pertains to the initial zoning and annexation for the 1785 Weld County Road 32 annexation property. Similarly, the subject property is town-owned and therefore the applicant. The town of Mead acquired this property on July 25th, 2022. The property currently lies within the unincorporated Weld County Agricultural District and is proposed for town annexation on tonight's agenda. The town of Mead seeks to establish public facilities zoning directly after approval of annexation. The property at hand is approximately 0.856 acres and is currently being used by the town to store heavy machinery such as motor graders. The future use is intended to continue utilizing the property as town storage for machinery. As seen on the slide, the 1785 Weld County Road 32 annexation property is located north of Weld County Road 32 and west of Weld County Road 5. The property is designated by the town's comprehensive plan as being appropriate for agriculture. Agriculture is defined by the comprehensive plan as agricultural operations and very low-density single-family residential properties annexed into the town. It may also be currently used for agricultural or non-urban purposes that are not ready for development due to lack of utilities or other services. They're intended to provide a transition to the town. The zoning of surrounding properties is as follows. The property to the north is located within unincorporated Weld County and zoned for agricultural. The property to the east is located within unincorporated Weld County and zoned agricultural. The property to the south is zoned for RSF4 within the town of Mead. The property to the west is located within unincorporated Weld County and zoned agricultural. The town as the applicant looks to establish public facilities zoning for the subject property. To reiterate, PF zoning will allow accommodation for quasi-governmental and community-serving uses on property owned by the town. Sequentially, annexation of the property is sought before zoning of the property is established. That said, Section 16850 of the Municipal Code states that the town will conform with the requirements set forth within Colorado Revised Statute as amended and as determined by the Board of Trustees in its sole discretion. CRS states when the town is the sole owner of an area it desires to annex, the governing body may, by ordinance, annex such land to the municipality without notice and a hearing as long as it is eligible for annexation. Town staff finds that the annexation meets the applicable requirements found in your packets and therefore recommends the Board of Trustees approve ordinance number 1114 with the suggested motion in your packets. The proposed initial zoning is subject to review against the criteria within section 16.3.160E of the Land Use Code. The full list, once again, can be found in your packets, and staff finds that the establishment of zoning for the 1785 Weld County Road 32 annexation property meets criterion numbers 2 and 4. Staff find that the proposed initial zoning is generally consistent with the 2018 comprehensive plan and that the property provides land for a community-related use that was not anticipated at the time the comprehensive plan was adopted. In addition, the proposed initial zoning pertains to thoughtful community planning, facilities, and services, a vision statement outlined in the comprehensive plan that was mentioned previously. For these reasons, staff recommends that the Board of Trustees approve ordinance number 1115 with the suggested motion in your packets. And once again, I will be available for any questions regarding the annexation and initial zoning for the 1785 Weld County Road 32 property.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
This is an opportunity for the public to comment on this public hearing. When you're recognized, please state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board, and we will ask that you please adhere to the town's general guidelines. Are there any comments from the public for this public hearing? Okay, seeing none, do any of the trustees have any comments or questions for Lauren tonight? I will now close the public hearing, and it's 6:55. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 1114, an ordinance annexing certain town-owned territory known as 1785 Weld County Road 32 annexation to the town of Mead?
I move to approve ordinance number 1114, an ordinance of the town of Mead, Colorado, annexing certain town-owned property known as the 1785 Weld County Road 32 annexation to the town of Mead, Colorado.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Melissa.
Trustee Adams,
Yes.
trustee Schranz,
Yes.
trustee Hagan,
Yes.
trustee Crane,
Yes.
trustee Cartwright,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Motion carries for ordinance number 1114. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 1115, an ordinance of the town of Mead, Colorado, approving the initial zoning designation of public facilities for town-owned property known as 1785 Weld County Road 32 annexation?
I move to approve ordinance number 1115, an ordinance of the town of Mead, Colorado, approving the initial zoning designation of public facilities for town-owned property known as 1785 Weld County Road 32 annexation.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Melissa.
Trustee Hagan,
Yes.
trustee Adams,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris,
Yes.
trustee Schranz,
Yes.
trustee Crane,
Yes.
trustee Cartwright,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Motion carries for ordinance number 1115. This leads us to a public comment, with our second public comment of the evening, which would be for any item, whether it is on the agenda or not. We will follow the same guidelines previously stated, and I will call on the individuals in the order which they have signed in. Again, I ask all speakers and audience members to treat one another with respect and dignity. And is there anyone here that would like, so who's on the list first?
Brian Fessler.
All right, Brian, come on up.
Madam Mayor, trustees, my name is Brian Fessler. I reside at 16927 McKay Drive here in Mead. I am also the president of the Highlands Mead Metropolitan District. Madam Mayor, I'll need the full 5 minutes as I'm representing 200 homeowners tonight.
Approved.
Thank you, ma'am. This evening marks the 6th consecutive month that I've appeared before you seeking a cooperative resolution to the longstanding public improvement issues affecting Highlands Mead. My goal has never changed: to resolve these issues without litigation while protecting both Highlands Mead homeowners and the taxpayers of Mead. At your April meeting, the town manager acknowledged exactly what the district has been saying all along. She stated, quote, "We have to compel the developer to come back and give us the letters of credit, but more importantly, finish the doggone work," unquote. She also acknowledged that the Metro District is performing work that normally we would not do until final acceptance. Those statements go to the heart of this issue. The developer had the obligation to complete the public improvements. The town had the authority to enforce that obligation. Instead of holding the developer accountable, the town settled for $800,000, even though its own staff estimated that approximately $1.6 million in repairs remained. On July 7th, the district sent the town a formal demand letter. Earlier today, the town responded, and despite our disagreements, your response contains several important admissions. First, the town acknowledged responsibility for the Box Culvert Bridge. In response, the district will reduce its monetary demand from $855,000 to $505,000. That is what good faith negotiations look like. Second, the town acknowledged that the town and the district were left in an unfortunate position. We completely agree. The difference is that the town had the authority to prevent that outcome by enforcing its development agreements. The homeowners had no such authority. Why then is the town asking 200 Mead residents to bear the financial consequences of the town's own enforcement failures? Third, the town's response never explains why staff failed to enforce the town's development agreements when it became clear as early as 2022 that the developer was not complying with the town's requirements. Instead, the developer was allowed to continue building and selling homes while critical public improvements remained unfinished. Trustees, where's the accountability? Who has been held responsible for these failures? Trustees, is this the precedent you want to set for the town of Mead? That a developer can leave public improvements unfinished, the town can choose not to enforce its development agreements, release the developer, and then expect Mead residents to pay the price for the town's failures? Highlands Mead homeowners have already paid approximately $6.7 million for these public improvements through their metro district. Yet many of these improvements remain unfinished or deficient, and none of them have been accepted. Should homeowners really be expected to pay for them a second time because the town failed to enforce its own agreements? If that is the message the town sends, why would anyone choose to buy a home in a Mead subdivision? What confidence should future homeowners have that the Mead's development process will protect them? And what developer would not view that as an invitation to cut corners, knowing the consequences may ultimately fall on homeowners instead of the developer? Trustees, you have the authority to change the course of this matter. Direct the town manager to negotiate the remaining issues with me as the district president in good faith before this dispute escalates. Otherwise, the district will pursue every lawful avenue available to protect our homeowners, including litigation, the Colorado Department of Local Affairs, our elected representatives, and the news media. The choice between cooperation and litigation rests with all of you. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Fessler. Is there anyone else, Melissa, that would like to speak that has signed in?
I have Pam. I'm sorry, I can't make out the last name.
Miss Pam, Miss Pam, would you please come to the podium? There's no Pam.
Mhm.
All right. Is there anyone here in the public that would like to speak to the trustees tonight? You have 3 minutes. Please come to the podium, state your name and your address, and then. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And thank you all for coming. It's a joy to have people coming to see our business meeting. So thank you. Next is going to be our 2027 budget discussion. This will be led by our Administrative Services Director, Mary Strutt. Ma'am.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and trustees. Here we are. 2027 budget discussion. So we started the budget discussion at a meeting in early July. I'm going to continue to present at your board meetings to talk to you about the upcoming budget. I hope you'll provide me some feedback and what you're looking for in the budget. Happy to schedule retreats with the board if that's what you're interested in, to do a deeper dive into any of these subjects. Okay. So I'm going to start with what we're going to look at tonight is the budget schedule, the reserve policy, which we talked about updating this year. And then we'll go into the budgeting process, some projections and assumptions, a discussion of board priorities, carryover projects, and then potential projects for 2027. So let's start with the schedule. The first piece of going into 2027 budget is our 2025 audit, which is complete. Check. It was due to be filed with the state auditor's office by the 31st, and it has already been filed, so that's done. And it also has been filed, the single audit has already been filed with the federal government, which was required based on the grants that we've received. So next, we're working on the 2026 forecast. In order to do the 2026 forecast, I need the June financials, which we just presented to the board tonight. We'll use those June 2026 financials with staff to project out through the end of the year of 2026. To see where we're going to end up the year of 2026, it also gives us a starting point for 2027. So in the finance department, I'll be working on those and getting those to the to the leadership team in the next week. August, September gives us some time to talk about projects and priorities, what we want in the budget, and even maybe price out some things to put in the budget, right? Get some estimates, see what goes in, what goes out. The initial budget presentation is scheduled for September 28th. And that same day will be the budget presentation for Mira and for the 2 general improvement districts and for the town of Mead. And we've tentatively scheduled the public hearing for October 26th on the budget, but we will continue to have meetings in between, before or after, as the board requests. Okay. I'm going to start with some questions that came up in my last budget presentation from Trustee Hagan. Asked about revenue per capita. So I looked at revenue per capita for neighboring municipalities. I found this very interesting, so thanks for asking, Trustee Hagan. It was very interesting. I looked up on each of the other municipalities, and again, these are local municipalities. You'll see Frederick, Firestone, Platteville, Loveland, Longmont, Dacono. I looked up their website and I pulled their 2026 budget. So I want to be very clear on where I got these numbers from. I looked at their general fund revenue in their 2026 budget, ours too, for that matter. And I've posted those here. And then the population numbers I pulled from the July 1, 2025 demographics from the state demography office. So anybody can go on the state demographer's office on their website and pull up population estimates. This is the July 1, 2025. And I thought that was a really good estimate. So it's interesting where we fall. I just divided that out and put Mead's right in the middle at $1,500 revenue per person in the town of Mead. We actually fall right in the middle. Some are lower per person, some are higher per person. I'm not sure that there's a lot of value to this. While it's interesting, and it's interesting to see what our neighbors have and do, people put different things in their general fund. For example, we have our street improvement fund separate. So 1% of our sales tax goes to our street improvement fund is not reported in this revenue, right? Because this is just general fund. There are other municipalities who do a similar thing with like a public safety tax or something like that. So sometimes it's really hard to compare those numbers, but kind of interesting to see where people fall. I really found the population estimates interesting. We've talked recently, and especially like with the economic development strategy that's going on, we've talked about why Frederick or Firestone gets some retail and we don't. Just based on the populations that are given here, they're 2 to 3 times our size in base population. So that's, a number that's probably considered in some of those retail estimates. Anybody have any questions on this? Trustee Hagan, is this what you were looking for?
Yeah, really interesting.
And I'm happy to forward my presentation out to you all if you want to, take some more time.
Does it include sales?
General fund, it does include sales tax, but for us, it only includes the 2% general fund sales tax. It doesn't include the 1% for the street improvement fund. And that's what I'm saying. And other municipalities may have. Yes.
That Firestone has per population. That's why it looks like they're way out of whack, but it's just because they're a small town with a bunch of commercial.
Well, it could
Exactly.
also be because maybe some of these towns include police in their general fund or don't include police in their general fund, or they include streets or don't include streets. And
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I found,
The apples to oranges for all of them.
yeah, I mean, I found Platteville to be very interesting, right? A population of 2,800, and they're, higher than us in per capita revenue. They're on 85 though. They've got some retail there on 85. Platteville, 2,800. Yeah.
But if I could, Mary, I think what she's trying to say is that these numbers we grabbed of what looks like their general fund. There, for example, if you looked at the email that I sent you guys, that I send every week on what's going on, how Longmont's looking at a sales tax increase for public safety, their aggregate sales tax is like 8.8%. Well, 1% of that is RTD. So we don't know in that number, are they collecting that 1% and then bequeathing it to RTD? So like without a real deep dive into what one person's general fund may not be comparable. That's why we're saying you kind of have to take this somewhat with a grain of salt. The most interesting thing to me is the populations and the relative look at their general fund. That 80 million for Firestone looks really skewed. Like that just seems kind of out of whack for a community of 20,000 people. I mean, I'd do a little deeper dive into that, but that's all we're saying is that you can't take this on the corner and say, well, Longmont does this or so-and-so does that, because we right here carve out 1% for our streets. So anyways.
Yeah, I mean, as we talked about building earlier, we all know Firestone's got Target going in 2026, Chick-fil-A went in earlier, but Quick Trip, there's like 3 other buildings right next to Quick Trip. So that could be commercial building that's bringing that way up for sure.
And
But it's double Johnstown, and Johnstown has all of that huge Shields commercial up by Loveland. I mean, that's insane to see that Firestone is double Johnstown when I know what Johnstown has.
Yeah, it probably takes a deeper dive, right?
Yeah,
it's taken out of context, but it's interesting for sure.
Can I just
gives us
clarify?
some information. And I'm happy to send this out so you can look at this.
You said this is from July 25 or is it July 26 population?
July 1 of 2025.
Okay. So this is a year old.
Yes. That's the most recent that the state demographer has, and they actually have it listed as a draft. Okay. Next up is our reserve policy. And we said this year we were going to talk about our reserve policy, right? So what is a reserve policy? You all have a copy of it. I passed it out to you at your desk. It's just a 2-pager. It's a small policy. A reserve policy is to set aside funds for emergencies, unforeseen revenue reductions, or unexpected expenditures. So just to save up in case something bad happens, right? Our policy was last updated in 2016. Tabor, which is the state law that applies, requires a 3% reserve. Our policy, our 2016 policy currently recommends a general fund reserve of 30 to 40%, a sewer fund reserve of 10 to 20%, and 0 on the impact funds and conservation trust because there's no operations paid out of those. There's nothing that we have to keep going. There's really just projects that are paid for out of there that as they come up, capital improvements. So the next slide is taking a look at other municipalities and what they do for reserves. While I was digging in their budget books, I just looked at the same municipalities. Most of them I could find. There were a couple that I couldn't. But again, Tabor requires 3% of expenditures. The Government Finance Officers Association, which advises and does training and education for government finance officers nationwide, they recommend 2 months worth of expenditures, right? You're looking at an emergency and how can you keep going, right? So they're recommending 2 months, which is 16.67%. So just in looking at some of those numbers, ours is 30 to 40. Milliken is 20. Longmont, 2 to 3 months, which is 16.67% to 25%. I found Erie interesting. They've got 25% for general fund, 10% for emergencies, 12% for contingency, and 3% for Tabor, which gives them 50%. So Erie's or Johnstown's at 40, Frederick at 50. Firestone puts theirs anywhere between 25 and 100. They give themselves a pretty big range of where they want theirs to be.
40?
Johnstown's at about 40. It's at 150 days. There says 150 days, which is about 40%. It's 41 point something percent.
100.
Yeah. So those are the policies. So ours is 30 to 40% our budgeted expenditures this year were $11.4 million, right? If we do an easy $10 million, right? 30 to 40% would be 3 to 4 million. We have about 8.8 million right now as our fund equity. So we're doing pretty good. But it does make sense to keep a little extra money because stuff is expensive and we do want to be able to respond in case of an emergency. The flip side, so that 30 to 40% is good and we're way above it. What's happened to us with at least one grant application is we applied for a grant for however amount of money and they said, well, you got enough money sitting in your general fund equity. Why don't you just spend that money? Why are you asking for mine? And it was because we had more than our 30 to 40% in reserves that we say. So the question is, do we want to increase that a little bit just so that we're a little healthier? This is definitely a board decision and a board discussion. So happy to have you discuss and come up with what you want. I can give you a recommendation that we've talked about. We're saying maybe you should consider 50 to 60%. The sewer fund definitely should be higher than that 10 to 20%, but we're sitting right now with the revenues not quite matching. We want to do a rate study there anyway, so maybe we should ask the professionals what it should be. That might be a better idea. And we don't recommend any change to the Conservation Trust Fund or impact funds, but I'd like to hear from the board. What would you like us to write in this policy?
Trustee Hagan, and then I have a comment.
So the first question is about the grants. If our policy is 100%, that would allow us to have much more money in there, and they would consider that mandatory and therefore wouldn't count it against us when we're applying for grants.
Perhaps, right? I'm just saying it's a question that came up in a grant. They could look at us and say, you have too much in your reserves. Your reserve policy is too high.
Okay.
But that was a question that came up, is why, if your policy says 30 to 40%, why don't you just spend it yourself?
And I brought up the sewer thing has been something that has been on my radar 2 years now since I've been on the board, and I've been bringing this up, and we don't really ever fix it, and it's always the one flag. So I guess what I'm saying is either, and we just did a rate study, I think a year or so ago, when they said, well, come in and adjust this and, increase these rates a little bit within this margin, but it never fixed it. So
right.
I think I don't know that we need another rate study to tell us we need to increase rates and impact fees, but
we didn't.
It's not a.
We just did a mini review of them looking at our financials. We didn't do a full review where they looked at the maintenance and capital improvement needs of the facilities, which is what they'll generally do in a full rate study.
Right.
To estimate that out.
When was our last full rate study?
2018?
Oh.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while, and as you've seen, our plant is aging rapidly. And so we're getting hit with big fixes. Remember the fan discussion? Well, it ended up costing like twice what it was estimated. So the rate study doesn't just look at, how many sewer taps are going in or how many customers. It really does a deep dive into the actual plant. And so I think it's a good idea to go back into it. All these rate studies throw CPI or whatever as an index, of 3% or 4% a year. But with the inflation and the fact that we've had our plant show some serious signs of aging, I think we need one of the professional rate setting companies to take a look at it. because it isn't just an index to
No,
each
I know,
one of them.
I know that. I actually do rate studies. I've done them for towns.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is we all know that they need to increase, and I don't know how long the rate study projected at the one in 2018 or whatever
Yeah.
year we had it done, but we could dust that off and look at it and see it. Okay, they projected we would have these big capital expenditures to expand the plant, do all these different things. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, we would absolutely pull it out and look at it. We're
we
just
have
kind
time
of,
to do it in order for to start adjusting rates as soon as possible. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
well,
I've been talking about it for 2 years and just nothing.
we typically adjust the rates in March, I believe.
Mhm.
And so we will look at it. I mean, I just brought it up to Erica a week ago. We'll pull out the old one and see how many years it went out. But I mean, if the board doesn't want to, we can just throw in a multiplier. It just seems like these studies generally are good for about 3 years. And then they kind of we have to pull back in and take a look at them. But again,
2019.
2019? Okay. So
So it's been a while.
Why is there such a spread of time in between these things? Why is it 8, 9 years in between looking at rate studies? Why aren't we doing them every other year?
well, because like Trustee Hagan said, it projects out usually for, 8 years.
You're anticipating
Yeah.
you're gonna have to replace this piece of equipment.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to expand to get to higher capacity at this year. So usually you're actually projecting like 20 years out, up to 20 years out, but the focus is on the first 5 to 10 years of when you're really trying to be more accurate.
So what you're suggesting is that we pull it off the shelf and look at what the recommendations were 8 years ago?
And at least
Yeah.
look at them and see what, if it's correct, or if we should have made adjustments by now. Maybe it told us we should be making these adjustments and we haven't been doing them.
We have. We just did a 6% this year.
But what was that according to? Was it the little mini study where he just, did he look that up?
Yeah, it's all on our website underneath the utility billing, and it tells you exactly when it did and how we did it, and what the capacity for each resident base, the base charges, commercial and the schools and the residential.
Right. But
Right.
didn't anticipate capital.
No,
That's why I've been saying we should go to St. Bray and San, or at least look at
Yeah.
going to St. Bray and San.
I agree with
You don't
you.
have to replace all the equipment.
Yeah.
That's all gonna be coming up here shortly.
Well, one of the things I'd just like to point out is that rate study, as I recall, predicted a bigger takedown, if you will, of more properties that would be in that sewer district. And what we found, like, for example, the Highlands are in that sewer district. The Highlands are completely built out. So when the study looks at what revenues were going to come in, it predicted a certain number of homes and commercial to be built within that district. It hasn't happened. I mean, like everything along Welker, that's a massive amount of contribution to our sewage plant, and it would be, more users and more PIFs. But that hasn't come to be. So back when we did it, we were predicting more of our sewer district being used. So obviously the math is, if you have less users and you have prices going up, it's going to have a bigger effect on individual rates. But what we'll look at, all we're doing today is just throwing out some ideas. We'll pull the old rate study out, we'll look at the mini study, and we'll take a look at it and come back with a recommendation. You can go whatever you want, but it's good to know that you're working on them, because it's nice to have another set of eyes on it.
But I'm going to tap onto something you said. These rate studies predict certain things with certain assumptions. So we assume that we're going to have X percent of building, we're going to have this, and that. And if all that happens, then the prediction's good. But to your point is, all of a sudden the building stopped. Now all of a sudden the prediction isn't good, because it was assuming that we're going to have X, and X never showed up. At what point in time do we take a look at that and say, wait a minute, it said it was going to do this, but this didn't happen, so we now have to take an action?
That's why we're recommending looking at another rate study.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Why is it took 8 years to figure this out?
been raising the rates.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not looking
Yeah.
at raising rates. I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going on with the sewer system. You're telling me we got major capital improvements that are going to have to come. What are those capital improvements? And when do they happen? Because that's why you're looking at rate changes, right? To pay for these massive changes that are going to have to come in.
Well, there's a whole combination of things. There's things start breaking. There's new regulations that require, like right now, they're looking at this thermal regulation where you have to have a certain, the effluent has to be a certain delta of whatever it goes into. So there's a whole bunch of things. There's projects, there's growth predictions, and then there's things happen. And so that's generally why you do look at these about every 3 to 5 years. We have been indexing every year. And so
I
mean-
don't know how we get here, but okay. I mean, I hear what you're saying. In my mind, it's not making a whole lot of sense because we're more reacting than proacting. Okay, certain things were supposed to happen that didn't happen, and now we're looking at it. So what flags come up that tell us we need to pay attention here?
Well, the
Remind
audit.
timeframes. Just pay attention to this.
Well, sometimes things happen, like we predict certain life cycles and they don't occur. And then in another situation, we would have had a whole bunch of sewer taps that came in. So we go into these studies with basic assumptions. Some of them happen and some of them don't. That's how a study, you have to use predictions. So then you revisit them after a while and you go back and you throw everything back into the equation to see where it comes out. It's not like we've been asleep at the wheel. We come back every year, we look at what's going on, and we recommend the increases. And frankly, it's been working. You guys see an audit every year, you look at the sewer fund. It's just that we saw in the audit was just completed that it looks like we may have to look at a more aggressive rate schedule. So that's why we think we ought to look at it. But we'll take a look and come back and see what y'all think.
Okay.
I just want to go back to the general fund policy recommendation to the 50 to 60%. I agree with that. And it's based on just things that have happened to other municipalities around us, tornadoes, different emergencies, things that we need to fire. Things that we need to put in our savings account. So in case something ever happens. So I would agree that the general fund needs to be added, I would say 60%, even though we are 30 to 40 now. So I don't know what the board thinks, but I think the recommendation that you've brought to us tonight holds because of the resources that needed to run the town for the future. Trish?
I would agree. I mean, if our current budget is 11 million, that 6.6 million is 60%, and we're already exceeded that. So we might as well let's set the bar at 60 instead of 50. We've already got that amount. We might as well set it for higher, in my opinion.
Okay. Any thoughts?
I agree.
Okay.
Is that a motion? Or do you need?
Oh.
No, I'm happy to just take that as direction and I'll
Direction right now.
update the policy and bring it back to you with a resolution for you to approve. So you're all in agree, do it about 60%. And I'm not going to change the other two at this time. We'll leave the sewer fund and the impact funds as they are until that's done. All right. Should bring that back to you within the next 2 meetings. Okay, thank you for that. The one thing I want to mention though on doing a percent on our reserves is at some point in the future, we might look at a different percent or a different, like a flat dollar amount or something, or like a maximum, right? Because as your revenues keep going up, that number keeps going up too. So, all right. Let's move on then to the 2027 budget process. So the first thing that I need to do is project out those 2027 beginning fund balances. And again, as I said, start with June of 2026, project out what we're going to spend for the rest of this year, and then we'll get those beginning fund balances. Then we look at assumptions for the major revenues and expenditures. We look at board priorities, capital projects, department requests, and then we present to the board a balanced budget. That's my goal. So our budget assumptions, again, for 2027, we're looking again at flat revenues. Sales tax may increase a little bit just due to inflation. People are slowing down their spending perhaps, but cost of items are going up. So we're still feeling it might increase just a little bit. Property taxes, the 2026 assessments that I've seen currently appear flat, which does mean that our property taxes would remain about the same in 27 as we collected in 26. We're seeing some houses lowering their prices and we're seeing stuff not selling. That generally takes a year or two to track into property tax revenue. And then the other thing that increases property tax revenue is any new construction, right? So if we see anything new going in, that would help our property tax. Residential housing looks like it's going to remain still kind of low, staffing at similar levels, but our costs of doing business continue to increase. Insurance, our employee health benefits, we're going to see another double-digit increase in those this year. I just heard from the benefit broker. So everything else is going up for us too. Board priorities. These were our priorities for this year, was to talk about some strategic planning, talk about economic development, talk about a housing plan. The economic development, we talked a little bit earlier tonight that that initial step, a consultant's going to come in and talk to you some about economic development. The housing plan, I know Todd and his team have been working on grants to do the housing plan as we're required to do. There may be when we do the economic development or any other strategic planning, there may be things that come out of there, right, that we want to put in the budget. But is there anything today along these lines or along, other priorities that the board may have? This is the time, right? I've got about 2 months to try to put some numbers together. So if the board is looking for anything specific to be in the budget, this is the time to start talking about it. And if you're not comfortable saying it right here, send me an email, send Helen an email. We'll start talking about it. We can, price up some stuff and look what needs to be in there. But anybody have any discussion about the board priorities?
Trustee Hagan? Okay. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Harris.
So thinking about potential projects for next year and kind of based on the Prost plan that was presented to us, I would like to see the soccer fields over by the library and new fire station and police station. I would really like us to be looking at what it's going to take to put those in, because I do think that fields continue to be a major issue in the town, and having access to them with the schools not allowing anyone to use them. You guys said you're having to turn away rentals of the fields because we're just over capacity as it is. I would like to see the soccer fields put on there as a priority. And then the other thing based kind of on that Prost plan is the splash pad. That seemed to be something that a lot of people really would love to see. That's always been something that I've pushed for as well over there. And so I would like to see both of those things kind of put into the plan. I don't know what anybody else wants, but those are two of the things that I see as a kind of a priority based on input that we got from the Prost plan going forward. So that's my input.
I have one. Yeah. So I've been, every time I come to the park, I always get like inundated with little children, and little grown-up children. They want a skate park. They want something outside. And I don't know if it's doable, but I just wanted to put that out for the public too, that, it has been a consideration of this board and prior boards of doing something over at Ames. And I know we have the master plan and some other things that are opening, but I just wanted to put that on our radar because, over the past couple of months outside in the park, I've been approached by families and kids about having something like that. So I just want to put that out there for everybody. So that's all I got.
I was gonna say Ames Park too, but I love that idea of the skate park or something like that there, and especially with that big hill, you could get some real shape.
We need a hospital next.
Yeah.
nearby hospitals. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to throw that out there because I think, it's
I mean, we had one for a long
Yep.
time and then we had to take it down because it was deteriorating. And well, I think people like the idea of it. If you drive to, I think it's Berthoud, there's that huge
287
that's been put in there and it's fantastic looking. I can't tell you that I've ever seen a single person at it, ever, that I've driven by it. It looks fabulous. Like it would be really cool. And it seems like it would be an ideal opportunity for teenagers. And I've never seen a single person at it. I don't know how much that thing costs for them to put in, but I've never seen anyone at it. So I don't know. I struggle a little bit with that because I think that parents want those things for their kids more than kids actually want to use them. But maybe that's just me, although I am a mom of 6. I'm a mom of 6. And yeah, would I love my kids to go to a skate park? I would love that. Are my kids actually going to go to a skate park? No, they're not. But that's my 2 cents on that one.
The one in Frederick gets a lot of activity right there by Safeway, near Safeway. Yeah.
66, yeah.
And pickleball courts.
way out there. Right. Anything else, guys?
Several years ago, we did ask for a grant for a skate park. And I think it was denied mostly because we didn't really have any decisions as to what we wanted. And it was kind of looked at and said, well, you guys don't know what you want. So figure out what you want and then come back. So that was 5 or 6 years ago, I remember. And actually, I think it's, who's that skate guy?
Tony.
Yeah, Tony Hawk. He actually has a whole grant program, and it's to get kids outside. So maybe we can look at that again. We have better grant writers now.
All right. Thanks, Mary.
Okay. I'm going to give you a little more opportunity as I move on to these other slides too. So my next slide is carryover projects. I've got to get these in because they are, current projects going on. The police facility, the 7 and 66 pedestrian underpass, the branding and monumentation at the I-25 and Welker roundabout, County Road 34 bridge replacement. That's iffy if it's going to be done this year or next year. It'll start this year, but it'll carry over, right? Yeah. So I have it on this slide as a carryover. Southwest Weld multi-jurisdictional trail. Now, our contribution that they were asking for that would have been really minimal, but hasn't been done yet. County Road 7 pavement design and funding with Berthoud, and the 1601 County Road 38 and I-25 interchange process. So those are some that you're going to see in there automatically as ongoing projects. And then these are some ideas that we've been holding for a while, and they're not all projects. The top of the list is funding opportunities, right? We've talked about different funding opportunities over the last couple of years, and do we need to talk about more of those and look at more of those? Explore options identified in the Prost plan. So just as Trustee Harris mentioned, there were some great ideas there in the Prost plan, and can we explore some of those options? Facility planning. We're probably good, with the police facility for facilities needs, but, what are we going to do with that building when the police moves out? What are we going to do? I'm saying 5 or so years from now when the fire department moves out, should we have a more concentrated effort on facility planning? Strategic annexations, there may be some annexations we want to do to just bolster up our borders. Comprehensive plan update, we've talked about that. Do we want that in the budget? Wayfinding signage master plan. Do we want to do more of a plan of where those signs are going and where they need to be next? County Road 38 and I-25 interchange, we might need some funding for that. Staffing levels, I don't think anybody has said anything about needing a lot of staff. One thing that I think the board needs to consider probably for 2028 is in-house IT. We're up to, IT. We're getting up to, 5 facilities. We've got servers all over the place. And when something goes down, staff really struggles with it. So 2028 maybe, but, there's kind of things like that we may need to look at as we grow and move. And then I've got the sewer rate study there. Does this bring up anything else for others? Sure.
This might be premature, I'm sure once we get done with the strategic plan study, that one of the recommendations coming out of that would probably be that we have some economic development skills staffed in here. So I would be very interested in beginning to look at bringing the right skill level and having it ready. So if we're going to do any staffing, I'd put my money there.
Okay, certainly.
The first one is funding opportunities, but I never see savings opportunities on these things. So are there some ways we could look at like reducing some across the board spending at in each department and look at ways of saving? That's, I mean, coming up with ideas on that and presenting that to the board, how we could do that, be interesting to see if what's mandatory spending and what things could have flex.
I mean, are you seeing overages in the departments? I mean, what? Usually you're looking for cuts, either if you don't have enough money, like we don't in the sewer treatment plant, but in the general fund, we're doing okay. And if you're seeing overages of spending, right? I mean, I think our staff does a really good job of looking at costs and getting pricing. Our purchasing policy requires that we get 3 bids or we get put out an RFP. So I'm not sure. I'm just asking.
So you're just saying there's no opportunity to actually reduce spending. Is that what you're saying?
Do you mean like cutting services? Like to reduce department spending, we would have to somehow cut services.
Or become more efficient?
Or that's a hard one to determine.
This is the first time I've ever heard of anybody say that a government has no place to adopt savings measures, like some reduction in some spending. I could go through all the expenditures that we get everything where we have to review all the money spent over the month and circle a lot of them and ask, what was this spent on? Why was this spent? There's a lot of miscellaneous charges that fall under these kind of categories that aren't ever strictly budgeted by us, but they're built into the budget.
Well, I don't disagree with saving money. But the amount of focus that we put on saving money, I'd rather see that focus put on making money. I think it's more important for this town to start finding ways to make money, not necessarily from funding opportunities, but start to bring in. Saving $100,000 is a great thing. Making $10 million is a better thing. It opens up an opportunity to do a lot more. You don't have to start robbing Peter to pay Paul, but we don't focus on making money. We focus on saving money, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm more focused on finding ways to make money. That's why I was pushing the retail thing. We need to find ways to get money into this town. And then this stuff doesn't become as big an issue.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
that's my 2 cents.
Anything else for Mary on this slide?
This is my last slide.
Oh, okay. All right.
So,
And
anything else for Mary on, budgeting and what we should be looking for and what I can bring back to you?
You'll have another opportunity later.
I will. So the next opportunity, since we're canceled the October 10th meeting, I'll be back before you on August 31st, right? With some more. If the board is interested in, a retreat or special meetings or individual meetings with Helen to discuss other concerns, feel free to schedule those and get those into the budget.
all right. Thanks, Mary.
Okay.
All right. We'll move on to elected official reports. Any town trustees have something to share with us? Great. Go ahead, Trustee Cartwright.
I just want to say thanks to whoever reached out to St. Vrain Valley and got the baseball field cleaned up, because I heard a sigh of relief through the town when suddenly people were able to look at that and go, wow, it's nice again. So thank you, whoever reached out. Not sure who it was.
All right, thanks. I just want to say thank you to the staff and the community for a terrific after hours afternoon. It was just amazing. The park was just as full that night than it was as a community night. It was just wonderful to hear and, watch people dance and sing, and it was just wonderful. So I just want to say thank you, Lorelei, and the Public Works and everybody who planned it. And the police department for keeping us safe. And it was just a wonderful afternoon and night. So it was really nice. And I'm sorry the drone show got canceled, but thank goodness it did, because that wind came up and it was done.
Are
So
we looking to reschedule the drone show, Lorelei? You're trying to find another time to reschedule that drone show? Awesome.
good. All right, because I know everybody was really excited about it, and poor Caitlin had to give the bad news that night. But anyway, thank you very much from the Board of Trustees. I mean, it was a wonderful night, and that's all really I have. I had coffee with the mayors coming up, and just remind people in the public that I do have office hours every Monday from 10 to 12. So come by and see me, and we'll have a cup of coffee or have a glass of water together. So with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, roll call, please, Melissa.
Trustee Crane,
Yes.
trustee Adams,
Yes.
trustee Cartwright,
Yes.
trustee Strands,
Yes.
trustee Hagan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. The July 27th, 2026 regular meeting of the Board of Trustees is now adjourned at 7:46. Thank you, everyone who attended.